Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video we're actually going to be saving data to our MongoDB database by using collections. So let's get started with that now. Okay, so what we're making here is some sort of a voting application, right? So you can think of it like we have two things, right? You say this or that, and if you select one, then that one gets a +1, okay? So the reason I present this is because we're going to be building this database. Now, there's a lot of different ways you could model this database, and that's not really important for the scope and course of this tutorial, because really what I want to show is just collections overall and how we can use them. So by any means, if you have a better way of modeling this database or a way you would like to implement, go ahead and do that. However, I'm going to make this nice and crystal clear. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a new folder. I'm going to open up my folders here, this sidebar, and inside of imports, I'm going to create a new folder. Now, this is going to be the first work we're doing on the server, so you'll get to experiment a little bit there. What we're going to do is say API. So the name of this folder is the API, and inside of here, we're going to create a new file, which is simply just going to be items.js. Now, I'm calling this items. I guess there's not a lot of better words for two things that you're voting between, two items. I thought a little bit about this, but I guess two items, two objects, two things, they're all sort of nondescript, but two items works. So let's come here into items.js, and now let's go ahead. I'm going to hide my folders here, and let's import Mongo. So we can import, and then once again inside of brackets, Mongo from, and then inside of a string here, we can say meteor /Mongo. Okay, and now we're going to be exporting something. Now, we haven't exported anything before, and we could simply just say export const, which means this is a constant non-changing variable. So export const, and we're going to say items is equal to a new mongo.collection. Okay, now Mongo collection is a method here. Collection is a method of the Mongo object, and we can say this, and this method accepts a string of which the title of this collection, so we're going to have it in lowercase items. Okay, wrap that all off with a semicolon like this. So we're exporting a constant variable named items as a new Mongo collection. Now let's go ahead and actually head to our server-side code, because if you remember, nothing's being imported by default anymore. So we want to head to our server main.js, where we had this meteor.startup code, and inside of here, I'm simply going to import our new API file. So we can say import, and then as a string, .. imports API /tasks items.js. Now this is just going to make sure that this file runs server side, okay? Nice and easy, but it just makes sure that our collection gets loaded server side. Now let's head to our body.js. Now this is where we're going to talk a little bit more about importing statements. I mentioned that things were going to get different once we started exporting things. I'll explain how right now. What we want to do is have access to the items variable. So you want to run Mongo commands like find to find all of your items. But we can't do that without items being defined. Just like you can't say hamburger is equal to cheese without first defining hamburger somewhere and saying var or let hamburger, right? You have to define your variables before you use them. And this importing is a way essentially to do that. So we can import, and then again, we'll have brackets here, items from, and then we're going to go ahead and grab those from our API. So /API / items.js, which is the name of the file. Now you'll notice sometimes when we import things, we don't have these brackets around the item or the thing you're importing. And you might be confused about when you use these brackets and when you don't. Well, that all stems from this export statement. Let's remove this export statement and right down here say export default items, okay? Because what the brackets are doing is essentially just saying that items is one of the things being exported from this file. But if you're only exporting one thing or you have a default, you can say export default and then the variable, and then we don't have to use these brackets here. We can say just like this. And now items is the default for what we're importing from items.js. You'll notice now that this is here, it's all good. Okay, let's go ahead, now that we have that working, let's go ahead and delete our current helper, which is hello, and add a new helper, which is going to be a function here. And we can say items, parentheses, and then brackets like this. And inside of here, we're going to return. Now we get to use that variable that we're importing, items.find. And we can have two curly brackets in here just like this. And you'll notice that this is all, nothing's happening here. What's funny here is that so we now have items, which are going to bring in all of our items that exist, but we haven't added any items yet. So obviously nothing's going to exist in this return here. Nothing's going to happen. But let's say we could add some items. Well, let's go ahead and add an item, okay? So we can do that simply from the command line. I'm going to hit have a new tab. So inside of the root directory of our application, you can see I'm here. I can type Meteor Mongo to access the Mongo shell. At this point, I can insert something into the database simply by saying db tasks.insert, and we can have our insert here. Now I have a couple of properties, one of which is going to be item1. Inside of item1 is going to be an object where we have text, and the text is going to be hello. And then we have a comma. The next one's going to be value. Value is going to be a number of 0. Okay, close that off here. And we can then close off item number 1 as well. Comma, and now we can have item 2, colon, and then we can have a bracket. Text is going to be hi. We're going to be doing a comparison between hi and hello, comma, value is also going to be 0. Wrap that off with a bracket, and then wrap item 2 off with a bracket, and then finish this whole thing with a parenthesis here, or a semicolon. So you'll see we have an object of item 1, which includes as values an object of text hello and a value of 0. Then we have a comma. Then we have item 2 with a value of an object including text of hi and value of 0. From here, we can just hit enter. So from the root of our directory here, we can have access to our database. And you'll see we can do that simply by typing in Meteor Mongo. And from here, we can actually insert something directly into our database. We can do so with db.items.insert. And this isn't going to be what the object will really be like, but we can just say text colon hello, okay? And then wrap that off with the parenthesis, semicolon, okay? So this is basically just JavaScript. db.items.insert, we have parentheses, we have an object, text, and inside of a string, hello, enter, and we now have one result inserted. Because we have something inserted into our database, we can now head back to Atom, and let's say we wanted to find all of these items like we did here. We can now display these items using this helper items. Now this is going to return an array of items. Even though there's only one, it'll be an array with one item. So we can get all of those items out of here with a very simple loop. And we can do that with these template tags here. We can say pound each, and then you remember our helper was items right here. So we can say items, okay? Now inside of this each, we need to then close this each. Now, because we started this each, we'll need to close this each. And now we're going to want to export the exact text. I believe we had it just as the text property. So because of this, we're looping over each item. And other things, you might see something where we have like item.text. This isn't the case. In this case, we can just simply say, inside of double brackets, text. And you can see it says hello here, just like that. It just popped up. So we don't need to do item at each items as item and then item.text. We sort of just know that inside of each of these items, we're accessing this property text. And if we were to just come to our MongoDB and let's insert another one, head back, you can see it's instantly being outputted as well. It's one of the really huge benefits of Meteor. In things like Angular, you have this two-way data binding where you can text and an input and have it instantly show up. With Meteor, it's sweet because what you're doing is the moment something is added to your database, as long as it's being published, which we have auto-publish on, it's going to show up directly on the front end of your site. So here, simply by inserting something into the database, if we head to this helper, this function's being rerun. It's finding all of the items again. It's going to output them as the helper items, and it's going to be updated here onto our page. So just like that, we have a new helper, and items here is now able to have each of our items displayed directly right here. Now, obviously, in a voting app, we need more information than just a text. We're going to have essentially two items and values for each of those items. But to be able to do that, we want to go ahead and add them via a form. In the last video, we talked about events, and we created this template.body events, and we had a click event on a button, and it did some stuff. In the next video, we're going to be talking about a form, and we can have a submit event, and we can grab values directly from the form. We can then submit them to our database and have them show up in here in real time like absolutely nothing. So, as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video. Hit me up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. Following the completion of this series, I will be advancing on to an intermediate Meteor with 1.4, and we're going to keep going into some advanced topics, and we're going to be doing a Meteor in React version of the same series with the same exact code, building this in React, and we're going to take that pretty far. I'm going to do some image uploading stuff. It's going to be really super cool. We're going to take this voting app and turn it into something really super interesting. So if you are interested in learning all that and more, head to store.leveluptutorials.com, become a Level Up Pro, get early access to all of those series, and get exclusive access to the majority of that content, because a lot of it is not going to be on YouTube for the first time ever. It's going to be only for Pro subscribers. So make sure you're there at store.leveluptutorials.com to either purchase these series or become a Level Up Pro and help support the creation of the free content. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.